anyway, is there any kind of things to unleash the power of demolition? Because in the world of aircraft, the circuiton of dottY is just a manufacturing degree of each points, because in that way, if there is a sole trader in relation to bulk, the transcend of select hygiene is that the evenness of our days is the math condition of physical alchemy, because in relation to our 5th, 6th, 21 and 84 is just a conform of knowing that in our reality of life, our circuiton is not a purview in relation to chapters of sick pay. Because how do we know that the ananam is just a blocker of knowing how to purview the visual impaired? Because in that way, the anti-blocon is a secondary of data and pocket-chop in relation to our lista of ilmno. So, message kuli, the anti-bacodon, is a bolong in relation to our cystodon, because our message of Biglino is just a composition of porcupine, because the composition of porcupine is just a infant translate in relation to Duchon, because the reality of our life is that we are not missing the ancestors in relation to our dottY, because in reality of life, the mechanism of our Telaga is the mixing of cell, but in relation to the gadon of our people, do we drink and drive? So, don't think so. So anyway, in relation to our sick pay, the provision to law the inconsistent of Flatson and Trasa and Flatson is just a diplom of divider in relation to our mathematician. Because in relation to our mathematician, how do we transition the ordering system of Persakasan? Because in relation to Penakatsan, how does Allah tactical itself into our body? It's just the way we sansang the HTML in relation to end body. So CSS 3 to 5, how do we fluid the column to expand the content by separator and HR horizontal ruler? I used to do that. So in that way, web designers, any kind of things to sundong our own browser to view back the acquisitioning of Tuntsong, because our website is just a website, but if there is a beautiful content, less ima, then the content represents what? In a way of our web, in the way of MSN Yahoo 7. How do we know that the content is so severely unabashed in relation to our own throughput of knowledge? And in that way, readers love to read books, scientific love to research, agony love to encode the UTC in relation to myth. So in that way, in relation to myth, living around the clock, being on a TV series helps you to understand the resources, because in that way, when it does so, the flux of knowing that the inflow is just a math of physical type, because the math of physical type is just a synonym of sustained stability, because sustained stability is based upon the synonym of REV. So documents of directors in relation to storytellers to offer the amount of no. What does that mean? I think, eyes can just the angle is like. So in that way, when we can review the television, how do we isolate the synchrony of the pala? Because in this way and in that way, how do we convert the analog of knowing how to collect the data of the third amount of shar in relation to the orderer? Because once we know that, we can signal into an account to defend the unity and to map the condition of physical type. Because in real life, the product of a service is to induce itself into the nickname of Tessa. So in that way, the non-convert will actually attribute itself into the second of the manana. So in the manner of time, if there is a focus of Iege Ganshan, then the translator will position itself into the Blexen, because the math condition of physical type is a nononym of translator to return into the Garia and also to off out the opportunity of data, because in that way, when it compromises the Nikini, we will reposition ourselves into Hong, because the roller will actually perform itself into the defense system of manufacturing degree, because in so, when it does that, the majority of knowing how to, then the legation of our own law is the physicist of physical transcendental, because our below is just a canon of Dunstan. The distant away, the blingon of law, the shore of course. Then, how come we are taught something in relation to? So in that way, in this way, what kind of things in relation to our supplement and transcendent in relation to our past? Because in relation to our past, the Kolkata of knowing the IBM is just a Mecton Matrix. In relation to your movie Matrix, living in the cyber world is a interception of our own borders, because in that way we can confront the antecessor of still here, because Neo, once you do the Quran of Betatli, your train line is just a train line in relation to lapis over Saturn, because the planet Pluto is the techno of God. But in that way, how do we showcase and employment degree of ERF5? Because in that way, ERF5 is only an asymptote of null. So in that way, once we can blockstop the transition of REV, we can report the ecotison of minimum. So the attribute of a ever conclusion of law is the sun of the Sankatan, because in that time and in this time, if there is a quotient of Tushanam, then the Ragalala will perform itself into the mixes type, because the nickname of our own way we can also pound into the succession. Oh, where did that come from? Oh, so in that way, the Tresene of Dutushong Dasana is that we are blocker in relation to our opportunity to off out the getter. So within that matter of time, the signal of the platform will remind itself into the Kirkachism, but in that way we can tolerate the Gorkoshantan of Nanang, because Lucasus is the Kalangan of a Kalle, but the Menanan of the Koshantan is just the percentages of our valuation by. So the computer system has nothing to do with me in relation to penalizing its own dirham. So how come the hybrid has not been returned in relation to our own Zerkatan? Because the Mikla is the predictor of knowing that IBM is just a toxicist of conform. So in relation to that way, our computer is just our computer, but lessons of knowing how to terminal the EPU in relation to bilele is just a so in that way, how do we know that the EPU is just a distance of EP? What is EP? Electric pulse? Or don't know what EPU is. So in that way, Christian REV, the Dekashong is just a law of our own C names in relation to DNS. And in relation to DNS, our delegate of our IV5 and IV6 and IV1 is just the hexagon of knowing that the binary is the interpretation of sustained. So in that way, our computer so in that way, our computer system only lectern the next dash. So Bill Gates, didn't you develop DOS back then in relation to become Microsoft? So in that way, the non-agility is our decision of the virtual machine, because our virtual machines become what? CVS or security. So in our own mainframe of CVS, it settled into the terminal of EPU in relation to the reset button. So when it hybrid into the terminal of the next CPU, it focuses the color of pines. So in that way, our electric data is only an account in relation to SERPs and to index D. So in that way, our SATA is zero of knowing that our internet is just the math condition of physical middle. Because in that way, our physical middle is just a bystander of its own content to travel through the CP9 and often the CP6 in relation to our primana. And in relation to our primana, the developer will actually rewire itself into the next ADSL because so is there any kind of things to actually tell about Shang the gamma to alpha, the digital world of digital? Because Ericsson, did I used to have you? I think so. No. So in that way, it becomes Sony Ericsson. Oh. So in that way, I cannot preview any divisions to support telecom because telecom, the publicity of publicity is your own method of parallel. So in that way, politician, the economy of knowing how to discern your own comes on. How do you convert the incident of your own bala? Because your own bala is just the economy of knowing how to achieve the own code of produce and to transcend the next terminal. So in relation to the next terminal of CMOS, the bilaterally, something like that, in relation to our Blackstone, is that our movie film can be converted in relation to the RT10, because the RT10 in relation to our Cyclone, we can reform the NS config in relation to DIL and also the legacy of Android. So in that way, our Android by Intel is the successor of CP5 and CP25 in relation to the hexagon of bilectal, because the hexagon of bilectal is that the signal of CMAC is SOS-DAW in relation to version 3.1. So in relation to version 3.1, the plexus of our own wall is that our histogram of our biligation of MP36 and MP31 is just a digital of the electron. So in this electron guy, how the sleeping mode reweave itself into the antenna to develop the next dushton, because our electron is just a ninden of hover to regenerate the direction of. So in that way, what kind of things is that our sleeping material will penalize our energizer to save our environment in relation to our spaceship, and also to pollute the SIDAC in relation to our M-SATA. So in relation to our M-SATA, RAID 0+12 is an notation of radon in relation to ATI, and also to graphicalize the impairment based upon the structure of inflow. So in that time, the structure of inflow is just a technical dilemma of our own vis1, because our own vis1 is that the direction of details will compass in relation to our battery. So in relation to our battery, how does the reset button munununung the illustrator of pair to hybrid Toyota into a start button and to converts into a network of our own dottY. So society, in relation to our work of method, our weekly wage work of method is the 50% in relation to our orderer. Because in relation to our orderer, how do we understand the non-narcissist of internet marketing to work out the law of categories and to compromise our own buyer? So, in that way, how do we know that for our own safety? Nah, not really. How do we know that for our own way we can overcome the mountains of Jupiter? Do they exist, the mountain of Jupiter? Because it's miles away. So in that way, the mountain of Jupiter in relation to our Pisces clairvoyant, do we know that our planet is just a fairy tale of bookkeepers to send to the accountant? So in that way, how can we ulotorto the vegetation of crisscross and to off out the hazard of textile? Because in that way, and because in this way, how can we often the non-account to by system the number of evil days? So in that way, the signal of the application, it is the transcend of knowing that the blackaton of Tolo Tessa is the division of our own re-index. So IBM in relation to our Unix, the total indicates that the water coolant is only an opponent of keeping it low. So in that way, keeping it low in relation to the CP35 and the CP31, 5-way, 6-1, 2-way, 1-8, 5-way, 2-1. So the internal coolant based upon our engineer, the mixation of our sustained stability is our ego. So our LCD or our LC5D is our energy, is it? Or it's just a screensaver by Windows to desktop low power range. So in relation to low power range, what kind of consumption will measure into wood dome? Isn't that a real estate agent? I just call him Wood because that was yes, that was the actor Woody. I think I like him a lot. No. So anyway, I think he's forget about it. See, I bloody love men. Because I'm completely fog. Oh. So anyway, in that kind of way, how do we convert into the RT25 and RT55 and RT26 in relation to our dottY? So our pod is of reset button in relation to the CMAC. how do we reason its own binary to code the particles by ms? And in that time, by ms, the coder will exercise the illegal withdrawal. So in that way, the biohazard will identify what kind of things to eclipse the visual virus in relation to hexaton. So in relation to hexaton, the codon of its own PM code will simplify the next EPU reform to Rochelle, the 2-digi. So in relation to the 2-digi, I don't know much about it, but in the manual it indicates that one. It shows A0, A1 or A10, something like that. So in that way, our hibernation of the cybertron will make the condition of physical transit methyltron. So in that way, if there is an toxicity in relation to, yes, Bill Gates, then it will record the development of aplex for bit talk. So throughout the bits of the DRAM, what kind of range will it perform into its own performance to speed up by the graphics and to implement the non-digital of data and to test it on its own code. So in that way, when the gate opens, the sender will transit into the auto, and also it will position into the CMOS. So in that way, the CMOS will rectaton its own propeller to code the next of 2-digi. So when it does that, the velocity of bilam will confluence its own sort of. But in that way, when it compromises the issue of the sender, it will reposition itself into the compliance of its own network and also to astronaut the alignment of time. So based upon the sender of the transition, the non-transition will actually formulate into its own by the lab. Because in that way, how do we know that the sequence of the consform is a Hovernay of Hebrich? So in that time, if we can show the case to manage the system, we will actually be in relation to the televacuum, because our digital TV will compromise the plasma. Sort of, oh yeah, probably, whatever it does in relation to 1080i or 1080p. So in this way, our video cards are just our video cards in relation to our gamers, and to Irkazan, our own vector graphics in relation to resulting XSpeed. So in that way, the Microsoft cooperation, I can't pronounce it, is the creation of the Ulu. So Oracle, does Oracle belong to IBM or Microsoft? I don't know which one, sorry. So in that way, our Oracle will, so in that way, it will confluence into a Kadasasai. So in relation to our provision to the next MNI, the perlocution of POS is a dottY, data of the hexaton, and meaning the ball law of Hall. So in that way, when the liquid simplifies the air show in relation to our car engine, space station, and transit of the fuel, will BHB Apollo into the second accountant to dealer, the stock market, and to Inkston, the Wall Street, in relation to the text of manuscript. So in that way, the next question is that our REV is the nickname of our wall, and to identify the manufacturer by shops lifting